Hi, I'm Alicia Streicher-Miller, and I'm here with Cheryl Hamilton. We are both therapists at Columbus Counseling Group, and Cheryl here is trained in Dialectical Behavior Therapy, and she is going to share more with us about our friends and family classes. So Cheryl, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Thanks, Alicia. Yes, so as you mentioned, I'm a therapist here at Columbus Counseling Group. I was actually trained foundationally by behavioral tech, Dr. Marsha Linehan's company, back in 2010. I started as a therapist in 2007, and I have provided DBT in a variety of settings and to a variety of populations over the past, I'd be 18 years at this point. So adult DBT programs, adolescent, both in private practice, community mental health, and juvenile probation.
Wow, what haven't you done? So anyway, because of the DBT concentration, what made you decide that these classes were needed?
Um, it was interesting how this kind of developed over time. And it was actually 2016 that I did the first small group of a class for this. And it was kind of twofold, really to meet a void or an unmet need that I continued to see. And so in sessions with clients, we would be targeting behaviors that they're coming to DBT for and kind of gathering all the information on those. And it would often cross my mind that several of the situations that we were looking at probably could have gone a lot better if the family had some basic coaching. The other piece to this is when folks come to DBT, there's often a lot of involved family members, at least one involved family member that we see most of the time just due to the nature of the problem and the severity of the problem. And folks often have a lot of relief when they come into DBT. They feel like they've found this great program, and then family members often feel kind of sidelined, and there isn't a place for them often. And so the loved one or the client gets put right into DBT of this pretreatment, and they're getting oriented and assessed and getting all ready, and then jumping into pretty intensive outpatient program. And the family members who really want the knowledge, they want to know, how can I help, how can I support this person, and also want to know, what are they doing in this program, often don't really have a way to do that except for self-study, of trying to Google or read books on their own. And so it just seemed to make sense to get family members together and to provide the information, because the other thing is family members often had very similar questions that they wanted answered. They wanted to understand their loved one, and they wanted to better understand, a lot of them borderline personality disorder, at least emotional dysregulation. They wanted to know, how can they help, and at least, how can I not make things worse? And they wanted to know about DBT. And so that's why I developed the classes, and then they have just grown over the years as I would teach them, and then people would request more things. I'd add to that or develop something new.
Yeah, it sounds like it really was needed, and it's really helped a lot of families and other loved ones find support and understanding. So, how do we
Yeah.
know who should attend?
So really anyone in any kind of relationship with someone who's over the 18 or older who has significant emotional dysregulation would would probably benefit from these classes. Now, again, DBT is typically designed for folks with borderline personality disorder, but it also is a little bit broader than that too, that it applies to folks in relationships with people with emotional dysregulation. Your loved one may or may not be in treatment. They may or may not be in DBT. They may or may not be with us. That's okay. While these did start for the family members of our clients, at this point, I really offer them to anyone who would like to attend that could find benefit from that.
So, these classes are in person and virtually.
Yes, yes. Back when I first started, it was just in person. But like you
Yeah,
said, we're here in Columbus, Ohio. And so folks are welcome to attend here with us at Columbus Counseling Group. We also offer them virtually now. It's a hybrid setup. So we also offer those virtually. Folks can attend really from anywhere.
great. That's really helpful. And what can we expect from these classes?
Yeah, so like I said, at this point, there's a few. What we do recommend is starting with the foundational classes. You don't have to, but that is a good place to start. And that's divided into a part one and a part two. The part one foundational class is really truly an introduction. So it's an introduction to understanding what emotional dysregulation is, also how that affects other areas of dysregulation. I also answer the questions about, you know, where does this come from? How does this develop? I utilize Marsha Linehan's biosocial theory and really help folks to tie all this together. I get a lot of feedback where people are like, I read all these books, but I didn't really understand how this all fit together and how it applied to my person and or to like practical situations. So the class is really helpful for that. We touch on a few other things. I do teach the DBT states of mind, emotional mind, reasonable mind, wise mind, and help family members see how that applies to the family dynamic. Um, the the last piece, and again, whether or not your person's in DBT, that's okay, but I do give an introduction to DBT. It's a treatment that is the gold standard for borderline personality disorder and emotional dysregulation, but a lot of folks don't understand the depth of DBT and really all the components of it and how it fits with all of the problem areas. So I do give an overview of that. The foundational one class is a very kind of educational kind of class type of feeling. It's a lot of lecture handouts. There's obviously still some discussion questions, things like that. It's also nice for family members to interact with folks having similar challenges in the relationships too. With emotional dysregulation can be a pretty challenging dynamic. So then class two really just evolved from folks wanting more application that we just couldn't fit all into this first class. So class two is a lot more hands-on. There's still some lecture component, but there's the workbook with that. There's more practice. There's more demonstrations. We go over a lot with validation. That's a lot of it. It's just a very misunderstood but needed skill. We also go over setting limits. And it's really as much participation or as little as you want. If you're somebody who wants to jump in and do some role plays, we do that. If you're somebody who wants to sit back and observe, I have plenty of demonstrations and practice with that too. But it's a lot of application with that. And then after that, there was requests for more for family members to be able to learn some of the DBT skills. So I started offering the 6-week skills group. That one I do about twice a year. The foundationals I do about 4 times a year. But the 6-week skills group, I teach it more or less like I teach the skills groups, except that there's not required homework. But other than that, we do just a brief overview of some of the skills. It's a little faster paced than the treatment version, but it does teach friends and family some of those DBT skills: emotional regulation, distress tolerance, mindfulness, and interpersonal effectiveness. And then the last offering that we have as a class would be the Cope Ahead for the holidays. That one is usually offered around like November timeframe, and is a great kind of regroup. That one's only offered virtually. For family members, we go over some 7 common patterns of emotional dysregulation and how that tends to show up at the holidays. And then everybody also has a workbook, and we develop a individualized Cope Ahead plan to prepare for the holidays, anticipate some problem areas, and then plan for skillful responses with that. So those are the classroom settings. If a class setting is not what you're looking for, you can always sign up to do individual or family-based coaching with me. And that way we can go specifically over the problem areas that you're finding. I can do a specific plan that meets your needs best, a mix of kind of education, coaching, practice, whatever you would like.
There's so many options, which is really helpful.
Yes.
And especially with in-person virtual coaching, the in-class, especially with the role playing and the real life examples, it can be really helpful to actually practice and play things out. So that all sounds great. We want to sign up. Where do we and how do we register?
Yes, I would love to work with you. I mean, it is amazing, and the research backs this, that when the family members improve their skills, the loved ones benefit. And so we want to do all we can at Columbus Counseling Group to get those resources out to families, and we've had such amazing feedback from that, both from family members and from our clients that are like, this helped so much when family members changed. So getting you in here to work with us, you can register online. That's often the easiest way. So columbuscounselinggroup.com. There's several kind of inlets to that. There's often a banner on the homepage under services, family and friends is linked there. Under resources, classes and workshops are linked there. And then you can actually read the descriptions and go ahead and register all online. You'll get the confirmation, the links, everything you need through there. If you would prefer to call or text, you can do that too. If you already are coming into the office, you can obviously register here in person as well too. But yes, would love to work with you. Hope to see you.
Yes, great. Well, we have so many options, so hopefully one of those will be helpful, that you'll be able to register and work with Cheryl. We'd love to have you. Thanks so much for sharing today, Cheryl.
Thanks, Alicia.